My name's Kim Clarke. I'm the manager of Stakeholder Relations with RTO7, which is the regional tourism organization covering Bruce Grey and Simcoe counties. So my job is to help you create awesome things for people to do when they're on vacation. Tourism's a huge economy. It's worth about 12 billion, or sorry, we have about 12 million people that visit our region annually. We see about $3 billion in revenue every year, so it's a big, I need to grow. I grew up on a farm. My whole family's farmers. Somebody has a real job, and then somebody farms. So you're my people. This is really great. There's a lot of information I'm gonna throw at you today. Feel free to ask questions kind of as we go if you like, or you can hold them to the end. Either or works for me. So as I said, I work for RTO7. We're one of 11 regions like this across Ontario. So we're a non-for-profit overseen by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming. And we have a whole bunch of funding programs that I'll talk to you about at the end to kind of help you make your ideas come to life. But I thought I'd talk about agri-tourism first. So really, what is agri-tourism? There's a couple definitions sort of floating around there about what this is. And for you, farming is probably your primary activity. We've seen lots of people come up, buy second properties, buy hobby farms, and they want to invite people in. This is a huge opportunity to introduce the general public to the land, Canadiana, where does their food come from? And there is a thirst for understanding a little bit more about agriculture, which is really great. So the Canadian Farm Business Management Council defines agri-tourism as travel, which combines rural setting with products, with agricultural products and operations, with a tourism experience that is paid for by the visitors. And there is a huge opportunity for you to gain additional income with farm-based experiences. I kind of put a little bit of a twist on that definition. So I like to think of agritourism as tourism that takes place on a farm or in a rural setting where visitors can engage with rural life through farm-based activities. So it can be anything. It can be, an apple orchard or a pumpkin patch. Does anybody run a U-pick or a fruit farm? No? Okay, that's all right. Maybe you have a livestock operation? And so the opportunity to bring people in to meet the livestock might not happen every day. It might be a little bit more casual, but is an opportunity for people to get up close and personal to the farm. But are you ready to invite people to your business? So business readiness is something, you're operating your farm every day, but you need to think of your farm, if you're inviting people in, almost like a retail location. So what does that sort of look like? So I'm gonna walk you through some steps. I like to call it my business readiness checklist that you need to think about before you start to invite people onto your farm. So the first kind of group has to deal with general operations. So are you regulated to operate within Ontario? Likely you already are. Do you have insurance? And making sure that and I know that there's somebody here from, I think, Cooperators later on, talking to your broker about what you're gonna do, because if you're inviting people into your farm, your operations are changing, so your liability and your risk could differ. So making sure you are having a clear conversation with your broker before this happens is really important. And finally, having all the right permits. The one thing I really love about this workshop, and I cannot tell you the number of businesses that I've worked with recently who have had to stop what they're doing because they didn't have the right zoning, they hadn't met the right bylaws, there were complaints from the neighbors, they'd gone to the OMB or the tribunal now. So this is excellent. So learn what you need to do before you invest a whole bunch of money and time, and you get everything sort of right. So if you're serving food, do you have a permit from the health unit? If you're serving liquor, do you have your AGCO permitting, all that sort of stuff pulled together? And have you double checked with the municipality to make sure you don't need a business license or you have all the right zoning and everything in place? The next set of items really has to do with people finding out a little bit more about you. So you've got all your permits and everything's ready in place. Next, you really need to make sure that you're ready to invite people in. And hours of operation and consistency of hours of operation is really something that's important. So you don't have to be open every day. That's like maybe you have an on-farm store, which is amazing. Have some consistent hours. So, if you say you're going to be open from 10 till 5 every day, then be open from 10 to 5 every day. You can set that expectation so that when people are, driving by or planning their day, they can rely on you to be open and available for them to come. Ensuring that you have an email, a phone number, a website, and social media is critical, and that you are engaging on those platforms a lot. Your customer, these are potential customers that want to reach out to you, so making sure that those lines of communication are open and available and being monitored is really important. Otherwise, people might not know if you're around or you're open. And then the third thing I want you to really think about is payment. You're in this, out of the goodness of your hearts 100%. However, you're also in this to make money. And making it easy for people to pay you is important. So accepting e-transfer, accepting Square payment or an online method, those are easy ways that are convenient for people to know how to pay. And the Squares are pretty cheap and very portable. You can run them off your phone these days. I've seen them kind of all over the place. We're not seeing cash used as much anymore. Oh my gosh. My children pull money out of my wallet anytime I have cash available. So I try and avoid it if I can. But people, and especially after COVID, are really conditioned to paying with a card. So make it easy for them to pay you. Next, people need to find you. Put up your hands if you're in a town. Yeah. So you're probably located on a county road, on a side road, on a back road, somewhere that's off the main track. If you're on a county road that gets a lot of traffic, that's amazing. But for the most part, people will be driving on rural roads that they might not be familiar with. So making sure that you are in the right space on Google is critical. This is how people find things. You Google it. Where is such and such? Well, I'm going to Google it. So it goes into their map system, they hit directions, and away they go. So you want to make sure that your location's in the right spot. You can use a business profile through Google as well. Who has a business profile for Google? Awesome. Have you checked to make sure your information's correct? Yes, awesome. So here's an example of a business profile. So this is Fescue's, and I think they're in Ormadante, so sorry. Anyway, information, they're closed right now. That's totally fine, but you've let the general public know that you're closed. So you've already set expectations there. Your address, the dot is in the right spot, your phone number, your email. They can get there, directions right away. Also, all of the Google business reviews are posted there as well. So Google has done a really good job of connecting all of the pieces. And as soon as you even search, local farm market or Fescue's for this example, the Google map will come up on the right-hand side of your navigation. And people use the map function to search all the time. I don't know if you've ever searched, you're on vacation and you've ever searched like restaurants nearby. Has anyone done that? That is all driven through the Google business profiles. So ensuring that you have contacted and updated the information on your Google business profile is such a critical step to making people know where you are. And it's free. Like, there's no cost, it's totally free. Use this to the best of your advantage. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are a series of things when people arrive. So these are really the very first impressions that somebody will have of you and your business when they get there. So you're all in rural settings, so have a sign at the end of the road. So you might have your fire number out there, but you know, if somebody's never been onto your farm, if somebody is unfamiliar with going to places in a rural setting, they might feel uncomfortable. So making sure that you have a clear sign at the end of your driveway that will let people know, and I highly recommend you do it perpendicular. Becky, can you do perpendicular signs at the end of your driveway? Is that a bylaw? I'm asking questions. Pardon? Oh, there's no sign bylaw. Oh. Well, that's interesting. This is just, wow. Okay, sorry. Don't, counselor, please plug your ears. A perpendicular sign, because as you're driving, you don't want to do this, right? You don't want to miss it. So if you're driving, you want to look at the perpendicular sign because it's going to be in your purview. So you know when to turn, so you're not going to slam on the brakes and hopefully not cause a traffic accident and then turn into your driveway. Next, you want to think about parking. And you know, you might have a great big parking lot like Quail's. Maybe you have a small area that's to the side of your barn or maybe at the side of your house. But you have to tell people where to park. And a rudimentary sign that says parking or some indication of how to park is often really good idea. Again, this is all about making people feel comfortable and welcome when they come to visit you. So show them where they can park. Make sure it's kind of clean. You know, you don't want to, I mean, today is a little bit tricky, but the sander was out in the parking lot today, which was really great, so I didn't see anyone fall. But make sure it's a safe environment where people can kind of get out and access. And, you know, if you're dealing with families and little kids, they might have strollers. If you're dealing with older folks with mobility issues, you might want to think about, you know, making sure that it's a smooth, flat area that they can get in and out of their vehicle quite easily. I cannot stress the importance of bathrooms. It is a reason why people stop. How many people have been on a road trip and stopped at Tim Hortons because they needed to use the bathroom? Show of hands. How many people bought a coffee because they felt guilty about using the bathroom at Tim Hortons? Yeah, there's no sign, there's no law that says you have to buy a coffee because you have bathrooms. But out of courtesy, because we're so nice, we feel guilt, and so we buy something. A bathroom can be an excuse for people to buy something from you, making sure that you have an easy way for them to pay you, but use that to your advantage. A clean, cool bathroom, and I was looking for a photo of this. There's a winery over in Grey County called Coffin Ridge. Has anyone been there before? So their whole thing is about death. Ironically, they're doctors that own it. But their bathrooms are a key focus and a main attraction. They're all black and red, and they play the Addams Family or the, I can't remember the other one, in the bathroom so you can watch. It's totally themed, it's catered to them. I've never seen another bathroom like this anywhere else. So don't be afraid to kind of play it up and own the bathroom. Keeping your place neat and tidy is really important. This, again, is an impression of you. And farming can be messy business. There's stuff everywhere, there's parts everywhere, but making sure that the area in which people are gonna see is clean, tidy, accessible. You don't want people to trip over things. Your insurance company will probably have a heart attack. You want people to have a really great experience. They want it to be well organized so they can find things, especially if you're in a retail setting. But just general business practice to keep things neat and tidy is important. Garbage cans and recycling bins are really great. We are really big on sustainability as well. So if there are instructions like, hey, by the way, bring a reusable bottle of water to your farm, so you're not having to deal with a whole bunch of water bottles, is something you might want to consider. Or encouraging people to pack in, pack out. Maybe you're encouraging them to bring their own shopping bag. But having garbage and recycling around is going to save you time cleaning up things a little bit later as well. And then once people get on site, sometimes there's places that you don't want them to go. So having clear signage around, especially when you're dealing with livestock, and this is your living, this is how your livelihood. So protecting your livelihood is important not only for you, it's also important for your guests. You don't want anything to happen, so you need to set expectations. So it could be just a simple stop sign on a gate. I pulled this off of OFA's website. So if you have a biosecurity issue dealing with livestock, put a sign up, that's okay. Like, there are always areas in which people are not welcome to go. Or providing some information about what to expect. So I don't know if anyone has any monkeys, but I thought this was a good example. What do you want people to do is really important, and as important as what you want people to not do. This is for your protection, the animals' protection, and your guests' protection as well. So don't be afraid to have a list of, here's what you can expect. Please don't do this while you're on site, especially if you're dealing with livestock. And finally, a hand wash station. Does anybody have a hand wash station available to the public? So it doesn't need to be fancy. It can be just a sink with some soap. It can be some hand sanitizer. But if you're dealing with livestock and then you're dealing with produce or products, having a place where people can kind of clean their hands after they might have done a tour of the farm will, again, help to protect everyone involved. And there are a number of resources that you can look at. So I pulled this off of Ontario agri-tourism. I think it's Farm Fresh Ontario. They just changed their name recently. But farm etiquette. So you are living and breathing, working on a farm every day of your life. Many times the people who you're going to invite in have never been. So the things that are second nature to you, like if you see a closed gate and you walk through a closed gate, you close the gate after you walk through it, doesn't always apply. So we need to set expectations for you and for your guest before they come. So putting a list of etiquette, and I like the term etiquette more than rules, because you don't want to seem unapproachable or like the mom. But setting examples of what, setting expectations of what to expect when they come to visit you is really important. So there's probably lots of times that people think, you know what, I'm going to bring my dog, we're going to go to the farm, it's going to be really great. Well, that's maybe not a great idea. So setting those expectations ahead of time is really important. And now, if you're welcoming people in, you're now part of the tourism industry. So welcome. We are welcoming people. Customer service is really important to us. And so you now are an ambassador for the rest of the region. And visitors, when they like to go places, especially when, you're gonna get your hands a little bit dirty and you're, looking at what is the culture of the area, what is it like to live here, they wanna know what else there is to do around here. So don't be afraid to know other places that they can visit. Your job now is to try and encourage them to stay here longer, to spend more money as part of your economic development process. So recommend your favorite restaurant. And if you have a dish that you love at your favorite restaurant, recommend that too. If you know of another attraction that they might like, that's really great. If you know of an accommodation, if you're not doing any on-farm accommodation, recommend that too. Be the customer service or the concierge for people that are coming to visit, and they'll totally appreciate that. And don't be afraid to put that on your website either, because you can all help one another by circulating different things. We can work together. If everyone has kind of complementary products, then we're encouraging people to come back or stay longer. Is there any questions about my checklist? Is it all clear as mud? So, as I said, I work in product development as part of what we do with RTO 7. And I like to think about products and experiences a little bit differently. So I'm going to give you what my definition is. So a product is defined as a good or activity or service that's delivered to customers with a moderate amount of differentiation. It's available to a fairly wide market and is based on cost-based pricing. So raw materials in, plus labor, plus markup equals your price, your retail price. Or sometimes it's free. And so, we have 2 different kinds of honey here. You can get honey pretty much anywhere around the world. Raw honey or liquid honey. And so, for example's sake, let's say it's $10 a jar. Well, back in 2004, which is longer ago than I'd like to remember, one of the leading minds in terms of experiential travel in Canada, Nancy Arsenault, she defined experiential travel. So she thought that this is a little bit different. So she defined experiential travel as something that engages visitors in a series of memorable travel activities that are revealed over time. They're inherently personal. They engage the senses and make connections on an emotional, physical, spiritual, social, or an intellectual level. So if we think about that jar of honey, those 2 jars of honey, how would you change that into an experience? Well, you become a beekeeper. So you can get donned up in all the beekeeping gear, learn to go out and talk to see the hives, learn about what it's like to make honey. Oh, sorry, and instead of $10 a jar, you may be charging $35 per person for an hour. So there's an opportunity to make some money from this too. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. So I'm from Bruce County. I'm an import. I'm not from there. I've only lived there for 18 years, but I'm getting there. But I was the manager of tourism at Bruce County for about 10 years. And in terms of product development, we were always wanting to know what people wanted to do. And so we would go, and there's kids that South Bruce Peninsula and Sauble Beach hire every year to clean the garbages and the bathrooms, which is the shittiest job ever, but the most important job. Because if it's not done right, everyone notices, but if you do a great job, nobody will say a word. And so we went to these kids, because they're on the front line, and they're like, okay, well, what are people asking for? Do they want to go sea-doing? Do they want to go kayaking? Do they want more shopping? Is there better restaurants? What kind of questions are they asking you? And they looked at me and they said, They ask where the showers are so they can wash off the salt water. I was a little taken back. I'm like, oh, okay, but it's like Huron. It's fresh water. And I stopped and I paused and I thought about it. The people who are coming to Sauble Beach have likely not ever seen a body of water as big as Lake Huron, where they can't see the other side, that wasn't salt. The things that we see and do every day might not mean a lot to us anymore because we see and do them every day. But for somebody who's never seen this, it's important, it's cool, it's exotic, it's neat. Think about the last time you had a brand new job. It's exciting on your first day. Or think about what would it be like to be at a television station learning about broadcast? What would it be like to be in the dugout of the Blue Jays game? What would it be like to, be a musician backstage at a concert? For the people that do that every day, it's just another day. But for those that don't get to experience it, it's cool. Their eyes are opened. It's fresh. It's exciting. Your role as experienced providers is to take people into your world and then bring me back to mine with a new appreciation. So don't feel that, just because I'm farming every day and I've farmed every day since I was, it could walk, that this isn't exciting, because it is. The things that you do every day, whether you're driving the tractor, maybe you're still baling square bales and you need to stack them out, which is the worst job in the whole wide world. But somebody doesn't know that until they've done it. It's exciting to them. Feeding the animals or watering the animals is exciting. Understanding about crop management is exciting to people that don't see and do it every day. So don't sell yourself short. So when we think about experience development from this perspective, there are really 4 realms that we sort of touch on: nature, art, culture, and culinary. And I will guarantee you that every experience that I've ever developed has touched on at least one of these areas. And if we go back to that definition of experiential travel, if we're trying to engage all 5 senses, well, taste is one of them. You guys grow delicious things to eat, probably. So culinary could be a big part of what that sort of looks like. It doesn't need to be anything big. It could be just a taste, but engage people in all sorts of direction. And I have 4 main benefits to why this is good for your business. Does anyone consider themselves within the travel sector already, working within the tourism sector already? Oh, nice, awesome. Most people don't. So experiential travel, again, that whole engaging on an authentic level is something really important. So experiences on your farm give an opportunity to engage with non-traditional tourism businesses and people within the community. So this I like to call the flavor of the community that's a part of an authentic travel experience. So what does that sort of look like? So this is Jody. She has she has an apiary down by Perth County. And we worked with her a couple of years ago to develop a beekeeping experience where we put on all the masks and we learned about the colonies and the bees and all that sort of worked, how that all worked. And we made beeswax candles at the end of it that we got to take home. This is not her main stream of revenue. It's an additional stream of revenue. She offers these workshops at, I think maybe like once a month or twice a month. She sets the frequency and the cadence for them, and she does quite well. The second benefit is the opportunity to layer products into your existing product offering. So you're all farmers first, we've all talked about that. So there's an opportunity to take things to the next level. So this is a restaurant in the town that I live in, and we're very much a summer town. It's very busy in the summer, and so in the winter they have some downtime. So they developed an experience where you could be the chef. You went in, you learned how to cook. They had they still had regular service. I think they reduced the number of tables that they had. But you went in and paid to cook for other people. You did get a great meal of it at the end of the day. But here was an opportunity for them to create depth of product in a time of year in which they had the capacity to engage with people. So it was more about the storytelling and the learning and the engagement with the chef and the restaurant staff than it was just going and cooking dinner for people. The next benefit is the opportunity to leverage new and creative use of your existing infrastructure. So this photo is taken from Marsh, and I had met one of the directors, executive directors, a number of years ago when we were just starting out on experience development, and Brittany was there with me as well. And Sarah had this idea where she wanted to have people experience the marsh on clear kayaks so you could see what was happening. Maybe they go and have a picnic. They had this beautiful new bridge that they had just finished installing. And so she thought this would be a really cool way for them to make this happen, for people to experience the marsh. So I went out there and she's like, I started pricing at the kayaks, Kim, they're $1,500 each. And I was like, oh gosh, that's really expensive. The return on investment on that is gonna take a while. So I said, all right, I'm gonna come out, let's do a walk around, let's see what you have to offer. So we started walking around and she showed me these Voyageur canoes. And I said, what's with the canoes? She's like, oh yeah, people come and they'll paddle the marsh during the day. And I said, oh, okay, that's great. How much do you charge for that? $8 per person. Okay, all right. So we got talking, and then, the marsh is a marsh, and they have a lot of nocturnal life, and they talk about that in their visitor center. And I said, hey, what's it like here at night? And she's like, oh my gosh, it's so cool. We have so many owls and flying squirrels, and, all this nocturnal life comes to light, and it's totally different than during the day. And I said, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Well, can we, what about your paddling idea? Can we not just put people in Voyageur canoes and light them up and then paddle at night, under the full moon? And so she thought about that and she said, yeah. So they came up with this concept called Marsh by Moonlight. They've been doing it since 2018. They only offer it at certain times of year when they have some capacity and when, under the full moon. It started out as $45 per person. It sold out immediately. They started to offer more and more and more. They've continued to offer it. It's now $75 per person, and they have a winter version where you can snowshoe at night. So they took what they had and they leveraged what they could do by also putting it at a time of day in which people don't have access to the marsh. So that exclusive experience to hear the marsh at night allowed them to bump the price point up. And I think they sell out all the time still. I literally checked yesterday at $75 per person for the snowshoe and for the kayak. I'd highly recommend it. It's super cool. And finally, experiences can be created at a time of year when you are traditionally slower. So, I don't know if that is actually the case for farming, but I'm sure there are some times in which you're only working 80 hours a week instead of 180 hours a week. So think about what that is. This is an opportunity for people to get to know you. I would highly recommend not creating an experience an intimate experience with you when you're very busy. You're gonna be distracted. There's gonna be people kind of coming in and out. This is an opportunity for people to engage with you. So think about a time of year where you're a little bit slower, maybe your revenue is a little bit lower. is there an opportunity for you to create a seasonal experience that's off-season for your product? So maybe it's not fall when you're in the middle of harvest, but maybe it's December. Maybe it's April. Oh, sorry, not April. Everyone's probably planting. Maybe it's now. So this is Terry. He's down in Atwood. He's a maple syrup farmer. And he really wanted to talk about maple syrup production. He's so passionate about it. But you know, when he's in maple syrup harvesting season, he doesn't have enough time to really spend with people. And Terry's a talker. Like, he's got some good stories. He's a character, 100%. So this is a person that you kind of want to spend some time with. And so we came up with this concept of making maple syrup the old-fashioned way, using techniques that Indigenous folks had used many, many moons ago. And he runs it in the off-season. So he runs it in the summer and the fall. So people still get the opportunity to taste maple syrup. They get to see all the equipment. It might not be working, but he has created this for groups, corporate training, and it's an opportunity for him to really kind of tell people their story. We even worked around things like, you know, going to the bush in July is not the best idea. The mosquitoes are the size of myself. So, you know, we made sure that he had bug spray available to people, or if he, you know, warning people in advance, like, if you really don't like mosquitoes, this tour isn't for you. But I think he does quite well at it. So experiences are a time now that you can use. Okay, am I over, Becky? Am I good? Okay, good. To think about the progression of economic value. So I want you to think about this from a business perspective. So y'all grow commodities. So I'm going to use coffee as an example because I'm pretty sure we don't have any coffee farmers. So if you think about the coffee bean, if we look at the bottom left, undifferentiated, low market value. So for example's sake, let's say that a bag of coffee beans, raw coffee beans, is going to sell for $10 a bag, $10 for 100 pounds or something like that. Just using this for example's sake. I have no idea what the cost of coffee is. So you buy it, you roast it, you do some branding, you put it in a nice bag, you sell it at supermarkets, and now 1 pound of coffee is $20. So the next stage is trying to actually consume it. So now you're in a restaurant, you've ordered a cup of coffee, you know, maybe it's just a regular drip cup of coffee, and you can customize it with sugar or milk or cream, or, you know, maybe you're going to get fancy and put honey or maple syrup in there. Somebody's going to serve it to you, so now you're paying $2 for a cup of coffee. And then we have Starbucks. Starbucks has taken coffee to the next level. It's not about coffee, it's about experience. The location where they put Starbucks are prime real estate locations, high traffic areas where people want to be. You walk into a Starbucks, they're welcoming. They've got furniture, they've got comfortable chairs, some of them have fireplaces, they've got some ambiance going. They really are wanting you to be part of their community. And then you walk up to the counter, and of course they don't have small, medium, large, they have tall, venti, grande, I think I got those backwards, and you can customize your order to whatever you want. So if you want a stiff foam chai latte, no sugar, with extra cinnamon on the top, they won't look at you like you have 3 heads. They'll say, "Thank you very much, what's your name?" So now you're part of the community. And then they say, "Okay, thanks, Kim, your order's over here." So you're part of the community. So then when I go to pay $10 for a cup of coffee, I don't choke because I know that I'm getting more than just a coffee. I am part of a community. So let's think about this from a farming perspective. Okay, so I'm going to hope that this works, Becky. don't know, hang on. Can you hear this?
When people come to the farm, one of the biggest things I try to instill with them or try to explain to them is that we're farmers first. I keep using that expression, we're farmers first. And what I mean by that is, I don't ever want anybody thinking of me as a winemaker or a cider maker or anything like that. That's not who we are at all. We're farmers first. In our case, we grow grapes here. Big deal. The rest of our land is into wheat, corn, soybeans. We take the grapes and we turn around and ferment them and make alcohol or wine or cider from them from there. Well, we can do the exact same thing with corn. You can do the same thing with wheat or barley, as you can make a beer from it from that point. So what we really consider ourselves as farmers first, it just happens our product, our crop is grapes, and it happens that the final product is cider and wine. Really, when people come here, we get people visiting us from all over. Yes, we have we're in rural southern Ontario, and a lot of people right around here are used to farmers. That's true. So we get a ton of people come from Toronto up here, from Cambridge. And it's very common. You'll get a couple of young couples, they'll be 30 years old, two young 30-year-old couples, they'll drive up here on maybe their way to the beach and come back, they'll stop in here at the farm, and right off the bat, it's kind of a different experience. They're turning off the highway, gravel driveway. Oh, that's different. Don't see too many of those. Next thing, no yellow strip down the middle. Where do we drive? Next thing, where do we park? No bumper stops. And I tell them, it's a farm, park wherever you want, no offense. So what we want is we want people to feel really comfortable and really easy. And another way of doing that is to include them in a lot of things we do. So what we've done here on the farm is we set up a lot of what we call farm experiences, and whereby when people come, we try to involve them in what we do. So an easy one, or one of a very simple one, is like have a name the wine contest or name the cider contest, things like that. But a little more elaborate is in the fall at harvest time, we have this fall harvest party. And what we do is we invite the public to come out and help us pick grapes. They'll come out to help pick for maybe 3 or 4 hours straight. In the morning, we'll take them back into the winery. At lunchtime, we'll give them a nice big hot meal, and then they get to sample some of the new products for next year and carry on. And then after lunch, we have this really cool thing where we have a grape stall. And where we have grapes in half barrels, and the people get in there and they can pull up their pants and take their socks and shoes off and stomp grapes to their heart content. And it's a really cool feeling. Feeling those grapes squishy between your toes, and that's really, really cool from that point. But we do lots of other things. With the vineyard, I'm a runner, and I do a lot of trail running and cross-country running. And so I come out here a lot of mornings, and I run the rows of the vineyard. And it's really neat. It's really peaceful. It's kind of fun from there. But we want to organize like a barefoot run from there. We want to involve the public in it, sort of a trail association. But we want to do it a little differently. With us, it's a lot of back to nature and along that line. And so simple things like no artificial drinks. This is strictly just water, other homemade foods, things along that line. We want it as natural as possible. Bare feet only. From there, we'd like to organize and just keep it as fun orientated and maybe a grape stomp afterwards, stuff like that. That's what we're all about.
So that's my friend Gary. He decided to retire like last year, which I was very sad about. Sorry, am I getting feedback now? But I want you to think about what Gary said. So we've talked about some of these things. So one, he's a farmer, he grows grapes, and that's just the crop that he grows. 2, he wants to make it authentic to him. So he's a runner, let's do activities that are running. He's big on sustainability, reducing garbage. Everything that he does worked with the brand of his business. And this is a case study in utilizing brand. So I don't know if you noticed some of the details that you saw within that video. So hoity-toity sellers was kind of on everything. Those tuxedo shirts were kind of like their uniform. They wanted to be approachable, but still sophisticated at the same time. He literally had some of his wines were called Kicked Out of the Country Club, which was a story that actually happened to somebody. He had frosty fake pearls. He had dusty white gloves. His whole brand was around making fun of himself. So all of his wines were labeled that way. His ciders were all about this 66 pickup truck that he had. And so he had, 66 pickup and 3 in the tree, which I didn't realize was an engine, but Gary told me all about that. But we worked with him to create these on-farm experiences. So if we think about it from the progression of economic value, he is a farmer, he grows grapes, that's his crop. And so, yeah, you can sell a lot of grapes, but your market value is going to be pretty low on them. But then if he put some time and effort and ingredients into it, and now he's bottling wine. Well, then he's involving people into his business by having them name the wines or telling them their stories or engaging them in the local community. And then finally he has the grape stomp or the harvest party. So I went one year with my girlfriends and I said to my husband, I'm going to Gary's and I'm going to pick grapes and, have lunch or whatever. And he's like, oh, is he paying you? I said, no. She's like, okay, so you're going to go to Gary's to harvest his grapes that he would pay somebody else to do for him, but you're paying him to do his work? I said, yeah, I am. And they're like, why would you do that? I said, because I've never done it before. I want to know what it's like. And so not only did I go, he told me that I was nuts, by the way, and then he told me that he's going to start bringing people up who've never seen snow and have them, they can pay him to shovel the driveway, which I actually thought was not a bad idea. I don't know if it would work this winter. Anyway, so I went for the afternoon. I paid Gary to go and pick his grapes. I did get lunch, which was probably the cost of me going, and I probably spent $150 in sales of wine. We did do a grape stomp. It was 5 minutes of the whole day. It was the most memorable thing. I posted on my social media because I'm a good marketer. I tagged hoity-toity sellers, and I can't even tell you the number of people that were like, where's that? How do I get there? When can I do that? That looks so cool. And so now I, as an individual, am marketing his product by word of mouth because I had such a great experience. And that was more valuable than any paid campaign that he could have probably done. So think about that too. Create a great experience, have your customers become ambassadors for your business. Okay, I'm gonna jump forward and then I'm gonna jump back. Okay, so what do I want you to do? I want you to think about what your idea is. I'm sure you have a million ideas. I have one good idea a day, so I haven't come up with my good idea today. So if you want to talk about this, let me know. Maybe I can share it with you. So think about what your idea is. Think about who your storyteller is. You could be the storyteller in Hoity-Toity Sellers or with Terry Hoover. They're the storytellers. They're it. For many other people, they don't like talking to public, and that is A-OK. Find somebody who does. And so maybe it's somebody from, the Rotary or the Legion or the high school. Maybe it's the drama club or a local producer. Maybe it's just your friend who knows all about you or somebody else from your household. Maybe it's one of your kids. Maybe it's your spouse. Somebody needs to be the storyteller. Somebody needs to guide people through your experience. Think about why that person is also important and the story that they're going to tell. And then start to make some connections. So maybe you have multiple storytellers. You can also do that as well. Or maybe you have different experiences that are hosted by different storytellers. Then you need to think about what it's going to kind of look like. Think about where you're going to host it. Think about when you're going to host it. Think about time of day or season of the year. All of those things can help to shape what your experience might look like. And then the hardest part, besides pricing, is actually getting it done. So you have to be, and this is part of my job, is to make people accountable to their own goals and objectives. So set some milestones, set some deadlines, and do your best. And maybe you need some help through myself or Becky or somebody at the county. Brittany's really great at this too, to keep you on track and accountable for your actions. And then you want to kind of, once you kind of figure all of the major pieces out, this is like a play. So you want to script out everything. You're going to edit it down to 3 to 4 things that people are going to do while they're with you. And you probably have a million things you want to share, but people do not have capacity to take in more than 3 or 4 things within the time frame that they're with you. So edit. You can have more than one experience, but edit down to make it simple. Think about the theme and make sure that that theme is evident throughout your entire experience. Then you want to time it. So if you say, my experience is 90 minutes, it better be 90 minutes. It better not be, 2 hours. It better not be an hour. People will want to make sure that they're getting value in their time and their dollar. And practice it. Bring people that you don't know, that you trust, through your experience and get their feedback. There's nothing more valuable than that. So, I know I'm getting kicked off. We have a number of programs that we have available to help you, as I sort of said. I can talk about this a little bit later, but our applications close on Friday. So if you're interested in some programs, our operations implementation program is like essentially social media marketing that's free. And then many of our other stuff is one-to-one funding. But we have a website, social media, lots of other ways that we can get involved with you. So that's it, before Becky gives me the hug.
Does anyone have any questions they would like to ask him? Yes, sir.
Just an experience when you were saying somebody do your driveway.